Analyst desk, let's get an interview with Zyrene and EnVy's top laner.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Seraph, top laner of EnVy. And Seraph, immediately right off the bat, I got to ask you, because last interview you said, I'm not a top laner yet. So what does it take? Because your champion pool is so diverse. You're a leader for your team. You're winning lane against people like Huni in the top lane. And what does it take? What gets you to that next level to make you that top laner?
Well, I still don't think I'm top tier top laner, and I just more flexible player because I can play whatever my team is wanting. I can play tank, I can play mage, I can play bruiser or something. So I think my most advantage is if my team is play well, then I can play well. But unfortunately, I'm if my team is play bad, I play bad. So I think the reason I have a good state so far because all the other 4 members really good.
All right, and I have to ask you a little bit about that because you guys have only been together for about 4 weeks now, a very young team, and coming into the split, you had some worries about some of your teammates and their experiences, specifically Laud, because he hadn't had really any on-stage experience up until that point where everybody else had. So what are your thoughts on Laud now? They seem to be showing up as a big threat.
Well, I think everyone's except me, including me. I think everyone worried about Laud because he has that much experience in LCS, but he's super lucky, I guess, because it takes 2 years for me be a consistent player, but Lord is just lucky, but he plays super well on the stage, and he never shaking hand on stage. He never nervous, and the good thing is the only one he tilt in scrim or in LCS, that's he play bad, because he doesn't blame any teammates. He's super good player, and he's really good attitude too. So I think he has to be more improved.
Awesome. It's great to hear that he has nerves of steel and he's not shaken on stage because a lot of rookies have that problem. I want to ask you, because we talked about 2 years it took you to get to that point. Well, we've seen your development back when you were first introduced to us in NA and CLG, and you've come all the way to here. You've developed as a leader for every team that you've been on, whether it's TDK or EnVy. What do you think it takes to be a great leader for an LCS team?
Well, because to be honest, I'm the main shot caller on team right now. So I usually I decision the making and Baron call or something or objective call, but I still don't think I'm maybe I'm good captain, but I don't think I'm good leader. I think good leader is Ninja, so I respect him. So that's why one of the reasons why I stay Ninja is because he's good leader, so he can kill me.
That's
not kill me. Kill me.
All right, and final question here, Seraph. Looking forward for EnVy's schedule, you have Cloud9 and TSM. Which one are you looking a little more forward to, and what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, two teams are really strong too, because they have advantage each other. Because C9 is I really respect Impact, because so far since I started the league, because Impact was one of my favorite top laner, and I know he's really good. He's really flexible player. So I always practice kind of become him, so he's my motive or something. So I think C9 is really difficult, and also TSM is Hounzer is good, W3D3, and Bjergsen is NA faker. So both team is really strong. So we are gonna keep practicing.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah, for the interview. Congratulations, and hopefully EnVy continues their win streak. Thank you. All right, now we're gonna throw it over to the analyst desk, and they can close out the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Zyrene. EnVy, Seraph there picking up another victory over CLG here. As Zyrene mentioned, this has been a big test for them this weekend as well as next weekend. They're going up against TSM and Cloud9, but they are stepping up. They are showing the larger audience that, no, we deserve this top spot that we earned in the first couple weeks of the split.
Unfortunately, the CLG test was a lot easier than what they had expected, because CLG was just all over the place. They're missing mechanical understanding of their champions, team composition. There's just nothing really stood out for CLG that was a solid ground to work on. Yesterday they had a solid performance, but today just all fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, just so many individual misplays that lead to team problems. If it was just
oh, this one guy did something poorly, but it was everybody at different points just doing something that left you scratching your head.
Definitely some breakdown and some failures on the side of CLG, but turning back towards EnVy, I do want to take a look at the composition that they put together in Champion Select, because again, we see a very magic damage heavy composition, however, supplementing it with a Lucian this time around as opposed to the Ezreal, but even so, very few engaged tools and very magic damage heavy.
I was a little concerned about it. I know Crumbs felt a little bit better that they have the Lucian instead of the Ezreal. I still thought it was, it's like not like a super high damage, it's not like bursty, and it's not quite like DPS-y where you have a Cassiopeia or something. So I had some concerns, but they did play it very well. They're level 1, which I think was one of like the big things, was like their Braum Karma level 1 is very strong, and for some reason CLG opted into fighting them, and they got punished really hard for that. So.
Well,
Well,
a cool thing about that comp, though, even though it only has one source of AD, Karma is essentially the new Lulu of mid laner, just some heavy AP damage that's a little bit of burst with a lot of support for your AD carry. And when it reaches that late game point, Lucian just gets to a point where he's your front line. He's the guy that's just hitting everybody and trying to dodge skill shots. So that composition in the late game is only as good as your Lucian's going to be.
And with that in mind, I mean, Law definitely has been performing. He's played a lot of Lucian, has an extremely good KDA. So, you know, you give him this defensive tool and a Karma to kind of run wild, and you know that he's going to do that.
He's been stepping up in a big way, and I know in that interview just there, Irene asked, you know, as I was talking to Seraph about reservations he may have had previous, you know, to this split, but Laud is stepping up for a guy that has been vocal himself about wanting to prove his value as an LCS player. This is another game, just another example of him doing just that. I want to dive into some gameplay. Let's go 5 minutes in, so not too far, but EnVy making a sweet 5-man play on the bot lane to pick up 2 kills, recognizing, although Bard's Flash did just come up, recognizing kind of the lack of summer spells and the mispositioning of CLG.
It's a really nice gank, but the cool thing is with the double TP, that tunnel is essentially the death with It's like, take him with me.
Yeah. That was, Afram was saying, if I'm going down, you're coming with me, Stick say, not intentional.
Yeah,
but,
the Bard,
We don't know that. I mean, we saw a lot of things that we don't know.
That's actually true, sadly. Bard Caitlyn pushed up. They want to do that in that lane versus Braum. Easy to get a TP behind them when they're playing that aggressively, and from there, the game started getting a little out of control before Darshan started bringing it back. And I think this was like my biggest problem with CLG's game was just like, Darshan was in a position to split push carry that game like we'd seen him do, especially yesterday. And then the rest of the team just started dying all over the place on the map. You know, at one point, Darshan was like 3-0-1 or something. And his team had a total like 9 deaths. It was just like, you guys need to chill out. And they could never do it.
Yeah, like a theme of the day has been teams playing with a 1-4 composition and understanding how to defend and pressure at the same time. But CLG, a team that we'd expect has this down, with Darshan being a known split pusher with a 1-3-1 style that they adopted last split. It's all over the place. Where is this knowledge?
A month ago, if you had told me that you're forming a new team and you'd like to learn how to 1-4, I would have pointed you to CLG of all the NA teams and be like, okay, go watch their films to figure out how to do it. Not so much the case anymore. I mean, with that TF, with the Caitlyn traps, you'd like to think that we could maybe sit and wave clear with a Hurricane, Caitlyn traps, and TF wildcards, give that Trundle more time to beat out the Rumble in the split push, because we saw that happening towards the late game. We did see that Darshan was able to put the pressure on the side lane.
So I do think that this comes from CLG trying to evolve themselves into understanding the meta, because go back a couple of months and their compositions were all about creating space for Stixay to really develop himself as a player, with a lot of carry-style champions and not so much with the utility. But now that they're trying to cater away from that and put their playmaking onto the mid lane with the Zillion, with the TF, and then more carry towards the top side of the map, the impact that Stixay has is just no longer there. Nobody's there to create space for him, and it seems that if the team isn't there to help him out, he seems incapable of creating these opportunities for himself.
Right, I mean, with the TF, you think you can also do a 1-3-1. It doesn't need to be just Darshan. You can have either one of these guys. If they get like big, they can be the ones who are really creating all the pressure, but it's only Darshan that gets big, and then the other 4 are like, they're under a turret, and they're just really far in front of the turret as opposed to focused on wave clearing. That kind of sets up what ends up being the most ridiculous play of the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to dive into that 22 minutes into the game. Beautiful turn by EnVy here in what was a very extended kind of engagement. So we're going to miss the first half of it, in which EnVy was sieging that second-tier turret. CLG now choosing to chase into it. We just saw Huhi port towards the Dragon, and of course, Darshan has already TP'd in. EnVy smartly realizing in the 4v5 that they should turn, or 4v4, I guess, because Kindred's on their way.
Yeah, I mean, 6 has a nice flash there, but Afro just walks a little bit too far forward, gets super chunked out. And now Darshan's just running around as a trundle trying to stick onto anybody, and
The
can't
fact that
quite do it.
Stixay didn't die right there.
My favorite thing about all of this is Laud's positioning. He's always just a little bit too far for CLG to engage on them, and the second that the CC comes in, dashes right in and gets the pick. So he's never in a position where he can get jumped on.
We saw the proto belt on the Rumble work.
It's good.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually hate that item, but I love that. I
God.
love that it snagged a kill.
hey, it looks pretty flashy there. But yeah, the rest of this play is just, it slowly winds down as they pick up more and more kills. They just keep handing things over. CLG not knowing when enough is enough, back off. Afro's the last one to go down. One by one, it's like, you know, this isn't a Congo line. We got to go in as a team.
Yeah, I mean, but it was the contrast of the team that made the decision together in EnVy, right?
Yeah.
The 4 turned together. They knew their target selection. They played it smartly, even with their low health, right? And you actually look at the stat lines probably in terms of health and mana and cooldowns between the two teams, you'd look at CLG and say, this team has the advantage if both teams execute 100% from the given circumstances. CLG probably should have won that,
Yeah.
but they don't.
What I like about EnVy is that the mistakes that maybe have even cost them games are just individual mistakes. There hasn't really been a big macro play that they're faltered on, that they get caught out of like that. It's usually individual mistakes, but the way that they win these games out is just as a team. As a team, they know when to turn, what objective to trade on, when to be on the map, and that's a cool thing to see in a team that can win that way.
I'll give you one example of where they lost as a team, and it was against Immortals when they could have just turned and all hit the Nexus to win, or turn and fight
But
to
they
win.
have learned.
And that was going to be my point, is that they lost one time that way, and immediately they know how to make that fix. They win this game off of a similar scenario. Ninja this time focusing the Nexus, making sure they get that win, get that W. They don't care about the kills in that situation. They play it correctly and come out with the
You
victory.
know, if they didn't do that again, I'm sure the belt would have come out and
Oh yeah, Coach has some words for you then. All right, well, it's time to move to player of the game. He's going to go to Proxen 7-2 and 9 on that, at least doing just some serious work. I mean, he was massively fed very early on in that game, picking up kills.
Right, he was always in the right lane at the right time. He was able to snowball bot lane. There was a time where they were trying to make a play on a dive that should have worked out, but Seraph had died prior to that, and then he was countering the plays mid. There's a time where, you know, he ends up using his TP like a couple units. Wait, not to begin with the red card gank, which in the first place is like,
yeah, it's
no.
unfortunate.
But he does
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a nice flash cocoon onto Smithy there to start turning that, and then I think they pick up Afro on the back end of that play. So he was all over the map, making very influential plays. So I think without him there, the team would have had a harder time getting off the ground.
I think we have to give a nod, tip our hats to Laud, though, as well. You mentioned just in that one play his mechanics, but being that only AD threat on the team, his positioning was fantastic throughout the fight.
Well, it seems like every game he plays, and he's earned himself a tip of the hat because he's had some really solid performances throughout and is a consistent threat for EnVy. And that way they can get away with all these AP compositions because you just can't ignore the damage that he's dishing out.
Well, EnVy continues to impress as they move to 5-1 on the split. Now that we have finished all of our matches, though, let's see which players have made the biggest impact this week. Picking up 3 Player of the Game awards each this week are Phoenix and Keen, who distinguished themselves in the mid lane. Fellow mids Bjergsen and Pobelter each earned 2 honors, and they are trailed by 14 players who grabbed 1 Player of the Game award each. All right, so that's what they did this week. Let's take a look at how the week 3 changes the Player of the Game leaderboard in total. Teammates Bjergsen and Doublelift are tied at the top with Ninja and Pobelter, who have all been recognized 4 times each. And behind our leaders are a bunch of players who are tied with 3 awards. I mean, so we have tons of players, but I think it's very interesting that this week so many mid laners snagged Player of the Game honors.
Yeah, I think it has to do a little bit with what's been getting through in the draft. We've seen some rises this weekend, which have previously been basically permaban status. All those pretty much popped off. The Vlads were...
The Azirs.
Yeah, the Azirs also. There's been a lot of these players who are getting really strong picks in the meta that previously have been getting banned, and for some reason this weekend they slipped through, and a couple of good Victor performances.
All right, well, there you have it. That's going to do it for Player of the Game for this week. Now let's take a look at how the teams are stacked up after 3 weeks of play. TSM sits atop the ladder in first place with Immortals and Team EnVy tied for second. Cloud9 is alone in fourth with Apex and Liquid tied for fifth. And CLG remains in the bottom half of the league, slightly ahead of Energy, EchoFox, and P1. Now that's a lot of action in the weekend, or lots of action this weekend rather, in the LCS, but there's more coming up in just a few days. Looking ahead to Wednesday. Tune into Primetime League at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight and stick around for our coverage of the North American Challenger Series right after that. Then on Thursday, the EU LCS hits your screen at 6 p.m. Central European Summertime, 8 a.m. Pacific with Schalke 04 facing off against G2 Esports to start off the day. And on Friday, the North American LCS returns with a matchup between Counterlogic Gaming and Immortals, with our match of the week between Red Hot EnVy and undefeated TSM on Sunday. That is going to be a sweet matchup to watch. Preliminary thoughts on that one?
For me, I think it's a little favored towards TSM. But the thing that we are going to look forward to is seeing how EnVy actually stacks up against like the super mechanically talented teams. We saw it against Immortals. They actually did fine in the mid and late game where they got a little bit behind initially from that kind of getting out skirmish. They had great picks that led to them getting back into the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to pull some of those off against TSM as well. Yeah, but TSM have looked really solid. I mean, they're closing out games rather quickly, and even though they have a couple of macro mistakes here and there, and even on their own, their macro play is always thinking of what can they get next. Like we saw today with that Baron call after losing a mid inhibitor, which not many teams would have thought about that. And that's really
true.
exceptional.
Yeah.
Like if you can pull something like that every single game, you're guaranteed to be a very solid contender for first.
And there's just a ton of really good individual matchups in this game. When we go down the roster, I mean, you think of Seraph versus Hanser, like, oof, I can't wait to see that matchup. Proxen now with some of the performances he's put up against Sven Skaren. Will anyone be able to deal with the amount of jungle pressure that Sven's able to put on because of Bjergsen having pressure in that mid lane? I think that's possibly the most lopsided matchup, Bjergsen into Ninja.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got those duo bot lanes, right? You have Bjergsen, or you've got Doublelift and Biofrost super aggressive, but Laud playing fantastically so far, and Hakuho right behind him on that. So a lot of interesting lane.
Yeah,
matchups.
for this series, though, we saw EnVy kind of start picking up on the Lucian hype train now that TSM has
Contested
really
pick.
spearheaded
Yeah.
it so hard. And, I have a feeling that this next week we're going to see a lot more Lucian than a lot of these teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if a series develops to the point of Lucian being a first pick champion, just because it offers such a strong early and mid game power spike that even if you pick something like a Caitlyn into it, once Lucian hits his first item, that lane is over and he's just able to take over the map. And it basically shows how strong can your AD carry be on this pick, unlike the likes of a Caitlyn, which is just sit back and hopefully they run into me.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wait an entire week to see this game, but I'll hold out, will you? As we close out the day, let's recap some of the day's incredible steals that you called out with hashtag LCS Big Plays. First up, a tweet from Sia Fawn regarding the Cloud9 Apex series. Sneaky's Elder Dragon steal with the W. Oh my God, let's see that sneaky snipe.
Ray picks his moment, jumps in, goes for the assassination. So much pressure put on Cloud9. They lose to G8.
Oh my God!
He stole it! Are you kidding me?
the Elder Dragon!
We're gonna have to fight Baron while they have Fifth Dragon. Is that something we can even do?
Oh, nice.
Oh, shit. Is that a W?
Yeah.
Holy shit. All right, go to Dragon. Go to Dragon.
Let's rush Baron.
Holy
Sneaky W.
shit.
This is sneaky W. He threw that in.
I love the whole team's planning. Like, okay, they're gonna get the Elder Dragon. So what are we gonna do? What can we do in face of Elder Dragon? Oh wait, did Sneaky just steal?
I love how they weren't even thinking about his steal. It was just like, it's already over. He's not even mentioning that he's going for the steal. It's like, surprise, I brought you a gift.
That's totally Sneaky's personality, though. Like, quiet until he does something,
Yeah. The saddest thing was just kill that ward. No play of the game. Just kill that little blue trinket ward. And then,
yeah, no, that hurts if you get that stolen away from you with a Lucian W. Next, though, is from our most recent series between CLG and EnVy with a tweet from Lieutenant Smash, who writes, first Sneaky with the Elder Dragon, and now Hakuho with the Baron steal. Let's check out the Stranglethorns.
Now this will be to not only the inhibitor, but also Baron.
It will be almost definitely the Baron. Hakuho wants to be involved in this fight. We've seen steals! Oh, and he gets it! Yes, he does! A Baron for Hakuho.
Nice! Holy shit.
the best thing about that was that fight was so long that we saw him die and walk
That's so
straight
true.
to Baron by himself. And it's like, I'm getting this Baron.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. I remember, when that replay was like, okay, so 5 seconds till he's up, runs home guards all the way there, boom, steals it, of course. Oh my
And
goodness.
the Zyra swag walk out of it, you got to do it.
Yeah,
I
love
mean,
it.
at least it wasn't burst from like 87. That was a 200 damage, Zyra ult.
That's
It was,
right.
it was
Yeah.
a little bit more
Don't
understandable.
try to excuse this.
It was a little more understandable. Come on.
Mark's doing work, but no, unfortunately, you can't excuse the miss smite there. And our last submission is also from this series with Pirate Snow tweeting, Xmithy is a god. That's steal. One more Kindred play for the highlight reel. Take a look.
Ninja is not here. The wall comes off. Smithy wants in for the smite. Gets chased out of over the wall. He's got flash to go back in. Oh, it resets. Oh, you gotta be kidding. And they auto-attack it down. Smithy steals away the Elder Dragon.
Jake, can you go for it? They're gonna go on you. Can you jump back in? Back up, back up, back up, back up.
What's it?
Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up. You can take us all, I'll heal you, I'll heal you. You can go for it, you go for it.
With a hurricane bolt.
That's why you get Hurricane. That's why you do it.
I like how it's just Afro telling him what to do.
Nobody else
Smithy
is
says
talking.
nothing. He's like, do I go in, Afro? Yes, go in. Do I leave, Afro? Yes, get out. And it's just,
It's like, I've earned you the Dragon Master.
He's puppeteering
I
from
think
behind
Afro
the wall.
actually just plays all 5.
That'd be amazing. Well, all right, you've seen all 3 of our big steals from today. My question to you, gentlemen, is which one is your biggest LCS play of the day?
I think that CLG one at the end, it was actually pretty well played from Smithy jumping in, jumping out, getting it. A little lucky with the reset, but it was actually a super critical moment because the other ones, I mean, they did turn the game, the sneaky one, but that one, and just seeing that blue trinket ward sit there the whole time,
I don't
tilted
know.
me.
For me, watching a support die in the middle of the fight and walk all the way back onto the entire dead teammate zone and get the steal with the ult, because he just blew everything out. It's like, let's try it.
Well, because, you know, in most situations, too, if you're the support who's rezzing there, you probably go, there's no way I can steal that.
Yeah.
I'll just go do something else on the map.
Exactly.
But he really did make the conscious decision for, like, no, I'm going to steal this. All right.
I wonder what the comms were like. I got this, guys. Don't worry. Just settle down.
Split decision on the desk in terms of which one's the best, but there is no shortage of LCS big plays this weekend. I'm sure we'll have plenty more next weekend. That's going to do it for our show today, though. So for myself, Mark, Crumbs, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.